All right, everyone, greetings and welcome to this beautiful conversation that we'll be having today about the practice of etheric gardening. I'm very excited to share a little bit more about some of the things that I love so much about doing this work, about doing healing work, about doing energy work, about doing healing and energy work with nature and doing healing and energy work in community. Um, but I want to talk a little bit first about some kind of outer context so that we can organize everything in a way where it makes a lot of sense. So we'll talk a bit about the practice. We'll talk a bit about energy work. We'll talk a bit about all things having to do with um, working with your intuition, working with your imagination, and why these are such beautiful practices. And then we'll actually do a practice. So we will definitely also be doing a journey to meet our gardens, which I'm very excited for. So that will be, experience-based practice for you to actually kind of feel what that connection feels like for yourself. Um, and then afterwards, we'll also have a little bit of time to chat, and I'll share any other little tidbits about what wants to come through at that time. So that's kind of the flow for today. So um, I've always really been someone who had pretty profound dreams, who would receive a lot of visions as a child. Um, I as long as I can remember, I've always been sensitive to energy. I've been sensitive to the environment. I've always been picking up on things that other people may not have been picking up on. And it sort of made me feel like a little bit like, um, for most of my life, like I didn't belong here. It made me feel like just different. It made me feel like an outsider. There were times where I would feel like I was the only person that was experiencing the world the way that I was experiencing the world. And I'm really grateful that that was a long time ago. And since then, I've had a lot of beautiful opportunities to be with other people that are highly sensitive, other people that are have different ways that they interpret and perceive reality. We often talk about the idea of the clairs. Um, I like the idea of the clairs, and I don't like that idea because we actually have so many kinds of extrasensory senses and extrasensory perceptions that don't always fall into these little neat categories. But talking about the clairs is a good place to start. Because often people will have a little bit of a sense of where they're strongest in their ability to pick up and perceive things. So I remember for the longest time, I didn't think that I was psychic, which I think is so funny because I didn't actually see things walking around, right? I was like, well, I don't see people walking around. I don't see, angels. I don't see dot, dot, dot. Um, in a physical sense, right? The same way that I see people. So I always just assumed that I was something else. There was something else going on. And I remember when I first started pursuing trying to understand exactly, what was it about my way of perceiving the world? Like, why am I having all these kinds of experiences, synchronicity, signs, omens, all these kinds of things? And I would feel like there was so much communication coming to me, downloads coming to me, but I knew I needed help. And I didn't know exactly what to do with all the information that I was receiving. And I remember I found this woman who is a channel, and she would have these classes where she would go around and tell people what their psychic gifts were. And some of you might have heard this story before, but she went around and she said, different things to people. She was like, "Oh, you're an energy healer, and you're a this and you're a that, and your strongest gift is, dot, dot, dot." And it was all these people that were talking about seeing auras and like, all these kinds of things. And I was like, wow, this is so fascinating. I was like, I really feel like I'm in the right place and I'm really excited to get some answers. And I'll never forget when she got to me, she was like, oh, yeah, no one's going to really be able to help you learn exactly what your gifts are. You're going to have to remember for yourself. Right? And I was like, this is like not the answers that I'm looking for right now. It wasn't helping me actually like land on a perfect label the way that I thought that I was supposed to at the time. But she did share a term that I found really helpful and that I have used often since then. And she said, you're what is called an extrasensory. And she said, you have all the clairs and you have a lot of other senses that some of them are from other lifetimes, some of them are gifts you're supposed to use. So she did give me some clarity, some information, some direction to kind of go in. And she told me at that time, she said, your strongest gift is telepathy. And having that language was really, really helpful at that time, because what it started to do is that it gave me little breadcrumbs to follow. Now, it was absolutely true that I was also going to have to figure a lot of things out on my own about my gifts and how they work. Um, and that really set me on my path. It really set me on my trajectory of trying to figure out why I'm this way, right? And what I'm supposed to be doing with it. And how does it all work? I always often talk about how we were not given the manual of how our gifts work, but I think in some way I've always known that there were these gifts that I had that I was meant to use somehow in service. I didn't know exactly what it was. I didn't know exactly how it would all unfold, but I did have that little bit of information that I found to be really supportive for me at that time on my journey. Since then, I've had so many different mentors, so many different teachers. I've learned so many different kinds of practices. I have learned lots of um, empowering ways to work with my energy, to work with other people's energy, to understand what it is about my sensitivity and how it works. And while it's true that the labels aren't really important, sometimes it can be really helpful to start to have a direction to go in. So for me, recognizing that my telepathy was my strongest gift, I really wanted to understand how it worked. When I started training my telepathy, one of the first things that I realized is that I've always been talking to my angels. I've always been receiving information telepathically from them. I didn't necessarily understand what that voice was. Sometimes you kind of feel like your angels are your intuition. Sometimes it might feel like you have some kind of guide or guardian or something. But for me, what I quickly learned was that I have angels and so does everyone else. And that our angels are always, in a way, um, trying to look out for us, trying to guide us, support us, take care of us. They're like their whole someone I remember when someone said like, our angels are always babysitting us, which I think sometimes it does feel like that. Sometimes it feels like we're not really in our power and we're kind of, walking along, not seeing everything, but our angels are like moving things off our path. Um, arranging parking spots for us and things like that. And just doing so much, so much of my relationship since then with my angels and my other guides and the other beings that I walk with, um, has really been a profound way for me to tap into a whole other dimension of relationships. And for me, that's one of the most important things that I think fundamentally changed my life which is when I started kind of openly coming out of the closet, being comfortable with the fact that I do communicate with beings on the other side. And not only do I communicate with beings on the other side, I collaborate with them, I do creative work with them, I have them, support me in my life in so many different kinds of ways. And one of my favorite things to do is to meet some of the beings in nature and to build a relationship with the elementals and the nature spirits and the devas. And when I really started working deeply with my angels, I recognized that again, oh my gosh, I've actually always been communicating with nature. Um, I remember as a child spending a lot of time in nature and just knowing that nature was magical. I remember going into the forest behind my childhood home in Michigan and spending all this time going through what I felt like was Narnia, right? Going through different dimensional portals, walking through different thresholds, and feeling and sensing how when you move through these places where there are these earth portals or nature power spots, how the way that you can feel the energy shift is so profound. It's so profound the way that you can walk into a forest of trees and you immediately your whole everything shifts. Your body's physiology, your physical body's physiology shifts, your energy body shifts, your chakras shift. There's just this very profound sense of a feeling of when you walk into a forest, you feel more grounded. You feel like a lot of times you feel loved up on. Um, Depending on your relationship with the trees that are in the forest that you're in. For example, if you walk into a redwood forest, there's just this feeling of being with these really ancient beings, which is different than if you walk through an orchard of apple trees, right? It has a different frequency that you can feel. So people tend to have aspects of nature that they are naturally drawn to, that they naturally have an affinity for. There are people that love the sun, there are people that love the ocean, there are people that love the desert, people that are very drawn to fire. Recently, I was um, at one of the etheric gardening retreats in Joshua Tree, and I was in the park and I saw someone with a fire, and I was just so drawn to the fire. And I went over and I asked, I said, is it okay if I come over and say hi to the fire? And the person was like, yes, 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 come on over. And I started a really interesting conversation just because the fire was there. I felt the warmth and I was really drawn into it, right? So there's a lot of ways that nature is a spiritual teacher to us. And there's so many things that nature is teaching us right now that are going to be a big part of what allows humans to evolve. So much of what nature has to teach us is kind of the exact um, things we need to hear right now in a lot of ways. And yes, there are a lot of different voices at this time. There are a lot of different spiritual teachers. There are a lot of different spiritual lineages, things that you would have had to dig really hard to locate. People talking about it's just on YouTube, it's on social media, it's a hashtag, right? And yeah, there is a lot of really great information being put out, mixed in with a lot of not so great information, disinformation, um, and all of the above. And to me, what's always been the most important is for me to work with people in a way where it's helping people to get access to their own information. The same way that I had to open up this deeper dialogue with my soul and with my higher self and with all these vaster aspects of myself, I also had to open up dialogue with past life versions of myself, younger versions of myself, future versions of myself. I really needed to tap in a very deep way for me to be able to do the things that I came here to do. And the thing that's important about that to me is, it's not just if you have like a big mission and all of that that you need your ancestors. We all need all of our family on the other side. We all need the love, the healing, the nourishment, the support, the care, because humans being, stuck in our own echo chamber is actually the problem, right? And to open up to listen to a different conversation that's being had, that's a much more subtle conversation, that's a much quieter conversation. It's a conversation that requires you to become very present. It's a conversation that requires you to move away from distractions and to find a moment of stillness so that you can actually hear and perceive what is trying to be communicated to you at this time. And so helping people open up their ability to channel, open up their ability to receive information. Recently, someone said, we're always channeling. And the reason that we're always channeling is because even our personality comes from the soul. Like our personality is not is oftentimes not the thing that we think it is. The identity of who we think we are is often not who we really are. So when we start bringing through who we really are as a soul, as a spirit, we're always channeling, right? We're always bringing through these different aspects of our own nature. We're bringing through the parts of us that are fire, that are air, that are water, that are earth, because we're made of the same elements. When we look at nature and we interact with nature, we're made of the same elements. And that's why, for example, one of the main practices in etheric gardening is a practice that comes from my Sufi lineage, which is called the elemental purification breath. And it's a breath practice. It's probably the first thing that I do after I pray when I wake up is I attune to the elements. And this breath practice is done in a way where you go through a different breath with each of the elements and you balance yourself within the elements within you, right? If you're someone that's got like a lot of fire and you need to bring in, a little bit more kind of like earth, right? You want to be in a relationship with the way that you're channeling these elements within you to see where you get out of balance, right? So this is a little bit different than, let's say, astrology. I'm a double Pisces, and I am, Sun, Moon, Pisces, and I'm a Leo rising, and I'm very watery. But it actually took me, so it's in my chart though, that I'm more fire than water. But it actually really took me a long time to learn how to embody my fire, right? That kind of like alchemical fire. It's really taken me, and it is still taking me practice to learn how can I bring through that element of fire in a way that is purifying and not in a way that is harmful, right? Not in a way where um you're breathing fire on people because you're out of balance with your elemental body, right? So, there's so many different aspects of nature similar to this that are essentially tuning forks for us. They are holding the particular blueprint or template for something that exists in creation that we're also not separate from. So when we work with plant medicine, and we work with animal medicine, and when we work with all different kind land medicine, you know, part of what we're doing, the way that I talk about it in etheric gardening, is that we're becoming our nature. So instead of only expressing a version of us in the world that is a conditioned version based on our upbringing, our culture, our family of origin, the school system that we might have grown up in, whatever level of brainwashing we were, subjected to, whether it be, religious programming, we all have some level of programming that is actually not congruent with who we really are. And so, in a lot of ways, energy work and healing work, part of what we're doing is we're clearing and releasing programming, we're clearing and releasing belief systems, ideologies, philosophies, patterns, habits, all of those things that are that have been overlaid or imprinted on us, or we've bought into in some way through the entertainment industry, programming, or whatever that is, right? When it's time for us to awaken, we need to be able to bring more of who we really are through into each moment, right? We need to be able to work with not just our physical body, but our etheric body and our astral body and our mental body, and to work with who we are in all of these various subtle bodies and to work with who we are in all of these multidimensional levels of reality as well. So when we talk about the etheric plane, what we're talking about is a level of reality that is right next to the physical plane. And in the etheric plane, what the etheric plane is made up of is that it holds all of the blueprints and templates for physical reality. So when we are in the process of creating something in the physical world, we always create it first in the etheric, right? So what ether is, it's a kind of substance that when it densifies, it becomes matter, right? Our physical body is an example of that, right? What we know now is that what we see in the physical world is not actually as physical as we think it is. We know that from quantum physics, that it has to do with the frequency at which something is vibrating that determines whether it is visible and can be detected by certain kinds of instruments, by our physical senses. But we know that there's this whole other dimension right there, right? In many ways, it's not even as if you have to like go up to get to it. It's exists here simultaneously. It's right next to us. But the issue is that we're not in relationship with it, right? There's a whole other world of beings that are interwoven, and their destiny is interwoven with our destiny, but we're not in a relationship with these worlds. And we're not in relationship with all of these beings. They know who we are. They see us. They see how much we're messing up. And in a lot of ways, they also see how much we are subjected to um, distortion. They see how much we are subjected to, programming and dogma, and they see the nature of sort of the human problem, the human condition. They understand the human condition. And so developing a much deeper collaborative relationship with nature and with the unseen realms, what that means is that we're getting rid of everything that is not actually authentic to being human, right? In a lot of ways, when we think about what it means to be human, we don't even really know. We have these ideas about like human emotions and that's part of the human experience, but we don't really have a clear reference point to know what's true and what's false. Because there has been so much distortion, there has been so much agendas overlaid on the human experience. In a lot of ways, the way that some people perceive it or talk about it is that we're never really given the opportunity to really evolve organically without the influence of all of these other forces, right? And while that may be true, right, we could talk about what I refer to as the anti-life forces. They are the forces that are not in service to life. Um, and and there's a way that the this programming, this agenda has really gotten in there like deep for humanity. And so part of what awakening is it's purging out what is false, what is distorted, what is inorganic, and it's returning back to an organic reality. And the way that this was shown to me, in visions and journeys and things like that, is that Earth was always meant to be a paradise planet. And you see signs of that. And I could talk about that forever because I love talking about paradise. Um, and in my Sufi tradition, there are loads and loads upon loads of references that are written about by some of the great mystics as poetry, as music, um, as stories, as fables, as folklore that talk about the Garden of Eden, that talk about paradise, that talk about what plants were in paradise. For example, in my tradition, one of the plants that's considered to be a plant from paradise is rose. And it's kind of not hard to believe that that's true, right? It's just like, wow, this beautiful being of the rose that has so much medicine to offer us, all the different colors, all the different smells. If you grow roses, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And just how rose has this particular kind of medicine to offer us so that we can embody the rose intelligence within ourselves, right? And so in the world of flower essence therapy, um, this is a particular way that we look at the world through this lens of archetypes, and the archetypes that we work with are plants, particularly flowers. The same way that astrology and numerology and tarot all work with archetypes, flower essences or essences in general are also about archetypes or what we refer to as templates. So when you learn about working with essences and flower essences, you learn that there's a way that you can sort of have a deficiency or a deficit in a certain kind of divine quality. And through working with that particular flower, you can learn how to embody that aspect of creation, right? So, in general, working with flowers and working with flower essences is a really beautiful way to invite plant medicine into all the work that you're doing, all the healing work. Um, there is so many ways that plants in general, flowers want to support us, want to help us. I was just in the dentist office today and I just had a little tiny procedure. But you know, anything that happens in the dentist office is just like awkward. It's just like, oh, this is so awkward. Um, and then I was just sitting there and then I was looking up at the wall and there was a picture of a dogwood tree. And dogwood is one of my like core allies. It's one of the medicines in etheric gardening. And dogwood is all about supporting the nervous system, you know? And so for me, it is about taking the essences, but there's also something about learning the language of flowers in order to be able to read them as signs. in order to be able to see a picture on a wall, or even when I was pulling up to the dentist office and I parked the car and I saw right in front of me parked was shooting star, which is another flower from etheric gardening. And shooting star is a flower that you work with if you have that feeling, a feeling like you don't belong here on Earth, a feeling like you're an alien from the stars. There's actually a particular flower for that. So, in a lot of ways, there is a flower for everything. And there's a Sufi saying that talks about one of the plants, that's another plant that's in paradise, which is black seed, right? Or Nigella sativa. And the mythology about black seed is that it can cure everything except death, right? So there are all of these plants that are um that have been worked with in, herbal ways, herbal medicine ways, all kinds of plant medicine ceremony ways. They have been worked with as allies, they have been worked with as relatives. And it's known on some level by most mystical traditions, most indigenous traditions, that plants are actually representing other beings, right? One of my friends and collaborators, Empress Karen Rose, um, often talks about how, um, associating certain plants with the different planetary bodies. That's one of the ways that she teaches plant medicine, is by talking about, this plant is associated with Venus, this plant is associated with the planet Mars. So she weaves astrology into how she decodes the plants, right? Um, and so that's a similar thing that happens in etheric gardening, right? When I travel, one of the first things I look for is, okay, where are my plant allies? Because when I see who's there, right? When I see who's around, I'm able to kind of attune to that. I'm able to feel supported. I'm able to feel like, oh, great, my team's here, right? That you have like this support from the other side. And so, both through working with the flowers in the essence form, not only does it your trains and sharpens your psychic sensitivity, because when you're tuning into one plant and then tuning into another plant, and you're able to like, read their energy, right, differently. It's like, oh yeah, this plant has this kind of energy, and this is how I feel when I work with this plant, versus this plant that has this other kind of energy. And you're able to know how to work with these plants to tune your energy. Um, and for me, and for a lot of people that have done a lot of healing work, but you might have that little thing that you just kind of need some help with, working with plant medicine as essences, so not taking them as the herb, working with them as essences helps you work your energy body. So different than when you take herbal medicine, which is also a beautiful part of this path. Let's say if you work with like an adaptogen like Tulsi, your primary focus is on the physical body. But when you're working with essences, because they're vibrational, you're working with your energy body. So if your energy is what's out of tune, this is the kind of way to work with plants that's going to be most powerful and in my experience most healing, and it's going to transmit the right kind of frequency to you that you need to be able to shift your energy. So there's a couple different things um, that all kind of get brought into the fold in etheric gardening. So there's working with essences, um, flowers in particular in tier one. There is using your relationship with the flowers that you meet to tune your ability to read energy, to read and perceive energy. but you're also learning how to do energy work practices. So, clearing, healing, charging, recharging, working on your energetic boundaries. And for me, because I studied a lot of energy medicine and I studied a lot of plant medicine, I was like, why are they not together? Why are they not being taught more together? Because to me, they're perfect partners. Talking about energy work and energy healing and energy medicine and vibrational medicine and bringing plants in, especially on the essence level, which is the soul level, um, to me, it's a perfect marriage. So that's in a lot of ways what's at the heart of etheric gardening. And then the last piece, there's a lot more pieces, but I want to get to having us take a journey here in the next couple of minutes. I think I've talked quite a bit already. Um, but what I want to say about the last piece is that in addition to developing relationship with the inner realms, you also learn how to take journeys into the imaginal world, into the inner realms. And you take this journey into the etheric plane where you then meet your garden. And your garden is your own personal sanctuary in the inner worlds. We all have a garden. I discovered this on some of my many journeys. I was like, wow, I have a garden in the inner realms. And I started spending time there. And then I realized that I had been going there for a while as a child, actually. Oftentimes at sleep, I would go visit in the astral. Even when I would go into the forest behind my house, I also would sort of cross this threshold and then I would be interacting with other dimensions, right? And at some point, I realized that there's a difference between going out of your body because you're going out of your body due to trauma, right? Which we often talk about as disassociation, where you kind of check out, you go unconscious, and you go out of your body because whatever's happening in your physical world is too much. There's a difference with that and when you learn how to journey in out of body experiences, when you learn how to actually shift your energy to your etheric body, and then you move through the different realms to be able to have this different kind of experience. We all do it at night. We all go out of our body at night. So it's not really something that you have to be trained to do. It's something you have to remember that you know how to do. Um, and there's so many things that I want to say about walking between worlds because it's definitely one of my most common practices. I am also often in the future working on projects. I'm often going in the past and I'm looking at things. I'm often going into parallel realities, parallel timelines. I'm often Artemis. I'm often playing with different timeline possibilities and checking things out. And I'm doing that by actually, I'm doing it in a meditative state. I'm doing it in a state where I have gone into a light trance, right? Again, which is something we all know how to do. We all go in and out of different brainwave states all day long. And to be able to go into a journey to do like what some traditions refer to as shamanic journeying, mystical journeying, to be able to utilize this practice, you really want to take care of your body. That's why we do energy work first. You really want your body to feel, kind of like nice and grounded and yummy, and supportive and safe enough so that the spirit part of you can go play, so that the spirit part of you can go have adventures. One of my previous teachers used to take us on psychic field trips. And we would go to all over the world, different places. And when I started doing like that level of journeying work, I realized I'm like, oh, I'm always like all over. I'm always like here, I'm there, I'm going and checking on people, I'm going and doing healing over here. And I realized that, it's been this journey of discovering my gifts that out of body experiences is something that's very natural for me. It's very natural for me to work in liminal spaces, what I call the in-between realms, that place where when you first wake up in the morning, you're still kind of in that theta brainwave state and you're able to kind of be tapped in. A lot of times in that early time before the morning, or in the morning when you're just waking up, it's often referred to as, ancestor time. Um, like in my tradition, getting up before the sun rises is a very potent time, right? We all know that quote from Rumi that says, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you, don't go back to sleep." Right? So it's known in mystical traditions that there's this window of time where you go into this hypnagogic state, um, the same way that you could be connected to some kind of, brainwave device that would alter your brain waves, you also have the ability to alter your brain waves. One of the ways that is easy to alter your brain waves is with drumming. So I am going to be drumming in a little bit. So I just want to let you guys know that. Um, and the other thing is that I'm going to explain exactly what we're going to do. And if you want to just hang out and you're like, this is interesting, but I'm not sure I'm ready to go there, you can just hang out and be in the field, right? You can be in the container. And even if you're in the container and you're not necessarily going to check out your garden, um, you will still receive benefit from the experience. So I just want to say that. The other thing I want to say is that while it's true, normally when I take people on journeys and I say, once we get into the inner realms, if you start going off somewhere in a different direction, go ahead and follow that. I'm going to, insist that for the most part, we stick to this particular adventure and we actually go to our gardens, which once we get there, you will understand why. Um, and what else do I want to say before we get started? So I work with portals, and the way that I work with portals is by asking permission for different types of thresholds. Thresholds are things like doorways, doors, windows, mirrors, right? Some medicine traditions, when people go into other realms, they go through puddles and things like that. So you may have a practice of walking between dimensions, and I'm going to teach it to you in a very specific way. So we're going to create the first portal. So look around your room and notice, where would the first portal be? I have a walkway here, I have a walkway here, I have a door here, and I'm just kind of tuning in because normally I'm in my other room, my main room where I teach, my office, but I'm out here today in the jungle because the jungle wanted to be part of this, of course. So I'm kind of tuning in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this hallway right here as my first portal. So tune in and get a sense of where that first portal is. And I'm going to walk you through the whole journey through explaining, and then I'm going to walk you through and we're going to do it. So hopefully that makes sense. So right now, just explaining what we're going to do. When you come to the first portal, we're going to do the energy work and I'm going to lead you through it step by step. When you arrive at this first portal, and again, you're arriving there in your energy body. You're not going there with your physical body. You're arriving there with your energy body, which for now might feel like you're making it up. It might feel like your imagination. Just go with it, right? Once you pass through that first portal, you're in another frequency bandwidth. And you're going to be in a realm that I call the in-between realm. And the in-between realm is a fascinating realm. We don't spend a lot of time there. I do spend some time there, but I don't necessarily spend a lot of time there. But there was a change that happened for me in my in-between realm, which is that now my in-between realm has sunrises and sunsets going on, which is about another thing that I'm doing. So I'm just mentioning that because normally the in-between realm can feel like a hallway, right? It can feel like you're in between the walls, right? You're not in that room, but you're not in that room. It's a very in between feeling, and it's meant to feel that way. It's in between the physical and the etheric dimension. So you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, over here is like full density material world, and over here it feels a little bit dreamlike. So I'm going to give you, so it's kind of like the waiting room. The in-between realm is the waiting room, so that I don't just take you from full density to etheric. There's this little in-between waiting room where you kind of orient to yourself in space and time. And then we're going to walk through the second portal. So you want to pick in your place where you are. And if you're outside, you could pick two trees to walk between, right? As long as it's a threshold, it will work. Um, so the next portal you're going to find, and for me, that's going to be my front door of my house. Um, Once you walk through that portal, you're going to find yourselves now in the inner realms. And I'll say it exactly like that, right? You'll be stepping into the inner realms. When you step into the inner realms, the very first thing I'm going to have you do is look down and notice your feet. And when you look down and notice your feet, that's going to help you ground in that realm. So you're going to look down and I'm going to say, notice the surface you're standing on. Notice if you're standing on grass, if you're standing on stone. So just letting yourself, letting it be revealed to you, right? This is not you projecting. This is you perceiving. So this is you letting what's there, the visuals, be revealed to you. So once you've landed in the etheric, then you're going to open up your perception and look around at the landscape. Typically, what people see is some kind of landscape in nature. Maybe a meadow, maybe you're in the mountains, maybe, dot, dot, dot. It's usually some landscape in nature. Um, and and then from there, you're going to know intuitively where the path is that's going to take you to your garden. So you're gonna just feel, oh my God, feeling, oh, it's this way. So just know intuitively, don't overthink, because you're gonna make your way to that path. And you're gonna feel your garden calling you, beckoning you, welcoming you. You're gonna start to get a sense of its energy. And there's going to be a magnetism. It's already doing it. So some of you, if you're really sensitive, you might already be feeling your garden like, come play, come, come, come. But you'll feel it more when we get into the garden realm. So you'll feel your gardens like beckoning you, calling you. My garden that I have, my physical garden, does the same thing. My garden woke me up today and was like, "You need to come out here and do some tending." I was like, "Yes, you're correct. I do." So I did that, got up first thing this morning and did some tending in my physical garden. So it's very similar to that, right? The felt sense of this is calling me forth, right? And then from there, you're going to find your way to your garden. And you're going to be standing outside of your garden. And as you're standing outside of your garden, you're going to be feeling and sensing the energy on the other side. Then we're going to go through the portal into your garden. So we're going to leave the path. We're going to cross the threshold of your garden. You might notice how your garden door looks. Is it embellished? Is it decorative? Is it simple? Is it wooden? What does the doorway of your garden look like? Notice that. Pay attention. Is there a key and all those kinds of things? All of that is information about something that's something that's presenting the same way that there's details in dreams that you can interpret. When you do this kind of mystical work, there's also going to be things shown to you in symbols. Um, Once we get in the garden, the thing that we're going to do, the activity that we're going to do today is we're just going to ask our garden for a healing. So if you get that far and you're like, this feels really great. Once you're in your garden, let yourself receive the healing energy, the love, the support, the care, the nourishment. Let yourself just kind of drink it into every cell. But that's when I'm going to start to drum. So up until now, I'm going to be guiding you with my words. Once we get inside the garden, I'm going to start drumming, and that's just going to be your time to go deep with your garden. You don't have to try to get any messages. Well, you don't have to do anything, but I'm recommending that you don't necessarily try to overcomplicate it. Just keep it simple. That way, you're not like, oh my God, I didn't get a message. Don't worry about that. If a message comes through, great, right? Kind of like that. But the intention right now is to just start to build a relationship with your garden. And I think that's all I'll say before we get started. I think we'll go and then I'll see what wants to be shared once we get back. But let me just check in really quickly before we actually take the journey. And I explained it a lot, but it's gonna go fast. So it'll maybe be 20 minutes of actual guided practice. But I want to see if there's any questions first before we get started. Any questions about what we're getting ready to do? And again, if you're just like, I'm just here, I'm just going to observe, I'm not going to go on the journey, you can also just benefit from the energy work if you like. It's up to you. So you have lots of options, lots of choices. So let's see. I'm just going to check the chat. I don't see any. Let's see. Does the opening portal have to be a space that you go to physically in your home? No, it does not. So I could use like the fireplace. Again, keep it simple. But also if something's coming to you very clearly, go with that. Mhm. Any other questions? Okay, great. So let's go ahead and get started. So hopefully you were here for our opening energy work because we're going to just kind of update that same energy work and just go ahead and move into the journey. So going ahead and focusing your attention inward and starting to close out any tabs in the background, bringing more of who you are into this present moment. So closing out anything that might be happening in the background, giving yourself permission to really be here, really be in your body. And you can do a head to toe body scan. So scanning your body from head to toe and just notice what you notice. Notice if there's places in the body where you're holding tension, maybe rolling your shoulders or your neck, kind of been sitting for a while. So, just kind of noticing that and just seeing if you can drop in a little bit more. Seeing if you can find a place of stillness within yourself and then letting that sense of stillness start to open. Finding the sense of peace within your being, of clarity, a sense of openness, spaciousness. And if there is anything heavy that's in your space, we're going to go ahead and send that down the grounding cord. So tuning into the grounding cord that you created when you first arrived here, you can go ahead and cut that grounding cord off and let it fall away to the center of the earth. And then call on Mother Earth to send up a brand new grounding cord. And here's a good opportunity just to open up a little bit of a dialogue with the earth. I like to collaborate with the earth on pretty much everything I'm doing. So I'm just going to tell the earth Um, hello, greetings. I'm inviting people into this practice of etheric gardening. I'm introducing it to some new people. And sort of telling the earth what you're doing right now in this moment or in any moment is just a nice way to sort of receive a more attuned and sort of refined and specialized hello back from the earth. So it's like when you tell a friend kind of what you're feeling in the moment, the friend knows how to respond appropriately. So going ahead and now letting the earth send up a grounding cord, connecting that grounding cord into the base of your spine. And let's go ahead and make sure that grounding cord is wide enough so it can be as wide as your hips or as wide as your entire aura. And really feel that sense of being held by the earth. So yes, you can imagine it, you can envision it, you can postulate it, but you can also allow your body to have a felt sense. And what does that feel like? To have a felt sense of the earth holding you, supporting you. Yeah, and really letting yourself have that support. And then we're also going to set this grounding cord on release. So we're going to clear out any energies that might be hanging out in your energy field that you don't need. Just sweeping through the aura, letting things fall away, letting things be released, and just continuing to breathe gently and deeply into your belly. And you don't have to know what's being released, just similar to if you were to go to the bathroom and you just felt your belly full, your kidneys full. You would just sort of know it's time to release. So similarly in your energy body, you want to get a sense of when you're holding on to things that are not serving you, when you've pulled other people's energy into your space. If you start feeling heavy, oftentimes it's other people's energy. Even when you're feeling the full range of your own human emotions, that kind of heaviness is an indication that it's not yours. So going ahead and releasing and clearing any heaviness that's ready to be let go, any other people's emotions that you might have pulled in. Oftentimes we'll pull people's energy in because we're trying to help, trying to take on some of what they're going through. But actually, we can help them better when their energy is not in our space. So just going ahead and giving yourself permission to clear and release whatever you don't need. Maybe you can see energy clearing away and releasing down the grounding cord. So you can just watch it fall all the way down to the Earth's recycling center, because we're also going to bring up earth energy as well. So going ahead and letting the earth bring up the perfect frequency of earth energy for you in this moment, and just breathing that yin energy in on an inhale, and on the exhale, pushing out and down any foreign energy, anything that you don't need. On the inhale, breathing in fresh earthly chi. And on the exhale, clearing and releasing whatever is ready to go. You don't have to force it. You can just give permission, bringing in another inhale of what you need. And then on the exhale, letting go of what you don't need. So this is called running energy. So we're going to continue to run earth energy through our system, but we're also going to bring down cosmic energy from an untouched place in the universe. So you can bring down sun energy, solar, starlight. You can bring down energy from different planetary bodies. You can bring down heavenly chi. So bringing down yang energy down through the crown, down your descending channel, down the back of your spine, letting it pull anything, any debris out of the back of your chakras that are ready to be released. And then so we have the yin energy coming up, the yang energy coming down, heaven and earth, divine mother, the divine father, and you as the divine child. So mixing these two energies at the base of your spine. And then when you're ready, letting that mixture fountain up the front channel, pulling out anything out the front of your chakras that's ready to be cleared and released. And then letting that mixture fountain out the crown of your head, 360 degrees, all the way around, and it tucks up under your feet like a toroidal field. And so running life force through all your channels, all of your systems, really kind of raising the frequency of your body. I also like to call it running love. The angels have offered as another way to talk about it, which feels very sweet. And then go ahead and say hello to the edges of your aura. So notice the edges of your aura. And we're going to go ahead and create boundaries. So we're going to create separation at the edge of your aura. So using your ability to imagine to create a rose at the edge of your aura. I like to give my rose thorns, which just reminds other energies to stay out. And then repeating that rose all around 360 degrees. So it's creating this beautiful containment of what you've cultivated. So just kind of feel that you're kind of, nestled in this bubble of support from heaven and earth. So hopefully your body is feeling relaxed, at ease, because we are preparing now to go on a journey. So tuning in now to the first portal that you've picked. You might decide just to kind of tune your energy into the portal, looking at it now from a slightly more relaxed state than before when we were just kind of explaining. So tuning into the energy on the other side and kind of feeling how it's a different frequency, noticing that. And starting to allow the energy on the other side to start to attune you. That may mean that it lights certain things up in your energy system that need to be cleared and released, that you don't need to take with you on the journey. So let's just go ahead and now that we're standing in front of the first portal, starting to let anything that we don't need to take with us fall away. You might notice heavy backpacks that you've been carrying around, baggage that you've been carrying, baggage that has old stories, old issues, and just taking that backpack off, letting it fall down to the earth. You can take off any masks that you might have been wearing, anything that you've needed to put on to sort of survive in the 3D matrix. You can take off any old skin, any old identity structures that you don't need, just kind of letting them fall away, fall down to the Earth's recycling center. Any old veils, any old valences that are ready to be released. You can let any cords fall away that you don't need, letting all of that fall away down to the earth so that you can sort of lighten up as you prepare to go on this journey. And so tuning to the frequency on the other side as we prepare to step through. And when you're ready, stepping through that first portal doorway, finding yourself now in the in-between realm. Give yourself a moment to orient. Sort of feel the frequency shift. Feel how you're in this liminal space between physical density and between the inner realms. Start to notice and tune into the inner realms. What does that frequency feel like? Starting to allow the energy on the other side to start to attune you and to highlight things that need to be let go in order to be able to move through this next portal. So again, taking off any heaviness, any old armor or guarding that you might be wearing that's ready to go, You can take it off. Anything that you've been carrying on your shoulders, any world burdens that you've been trying to take onto your shoulders, going ahead and releasing those, clearing them. If there's any energy like on your head, old hats that you've had to wear that weren't really aligned with who you are, you can start taking those off. If there's anything around your feet or your legs that might feel like it's restricting your energy, anything that might feel like it's creating the sensation of shackles, you can go ahead and let those fall away. And just letting the energy on the other side of this next shift that we're making, letting it start to attune your energy, prepare you to walk through this next doorway, and just finding whatever else you need to do to lighten up. Maybe some of you are kind of starting to notice your wings a little bit. That's another practice that we'll talk about at another time. And just say hello to them for now. So feeling the energy on the other side, because now we're going to go ahead and step into the inner realms. So feeling yourself at that next portal doorway. And when you're ready, stepping through, looking down now at your feet, finding yourself in the inner realms. Look down at your feet. Notice where you're standing. Are you standing on grass, on stones? Are you standing in water? Just letting yourself orient to where you are, the location. And when you're finding yourself really grounded now in your feet, when you found your footing, starting to lift your head up and look around and orient to where you are and notice the landscape that you're in. And if this landscape feels healing and supportive, you might just kind of initially allow yourself to start to take in some of those energies, some of that life force. And letting yourself receive whatever healing is starting to move into your space. But now we're also kind of noticing that our garden is calling. It's like a friend, you're getting ready to meet up with a friend, that feeling of kind of excitement, exuberance. There's an effervescence to the energy that's in our garden. It's very enlivening. When I spend time there, I always feel more alive. I always feel more enchanted. I always feel more grounded. What I don't feel is spaced out. I don't feel checked out. I feel more here and more present and more real. And so we're not going into a fantasy realm. We're going into something that is real, something that exists that we can connect to because we're not separate from it. So as you look around and notice the landscape and start to feel your garden calling you, start to allow yourself to respond to that call. Start to arrive now at the path that's going to take you to your garden. Notice anything that feels important to notice about the path itself as you make your way. Start to feel the healing energy already reaching you from your garden. And if it feels right, you can just say yes, give permission, say I open to this healing, and just starting to let yourself take in the healing frequencies from your garden. Just kind of noticing what you notice. Notice what sensations are present. Maybe your garden is supporting your nervous system, just starting to downregulate a little bit. Maybe your garden is sending love and healing to your heart, to something that's going on with your heart. So again, approaching in a way that feels open and curious, that feels right. And so finding yourself now standing in front of your garden. You might start receiving colors. You might start to notice certain sensations arising in your body, in your being, and starting to allow yourself to be attuned. But noticing also the details of the threshold, the doorway of your garden. Because you're going to, in just a moment, step through to the other side. And when you do step through your garden, I'm going to allow you just to have some time alone with your garden to connect. You might find a nice place in the garden where you want to lay down. And when you lay down, you might just allow your garden to offer you a healing. You might want to look around and notice what you notice there. You might want to have a seat and just sort of breathe in the air there. You get to decide what feels supportive for you. Maybe the sun is shining when you arrive there. Maybe the sun is setting. Maybe you arrive there and it's nighttime. Letting all of that unfold for you in a way that is meaningful for you. There's no one right way. This is your relationship with your garden and a dear ally that wants to collaborate deeper with you and work with you more in whatever way. And you might actually also notice, this place feels familiar. I think I've been here before. So just also notice and validate that feeling, if that feeling is there. Sometimes your angels will be working with you in dream time, taking you there, getting you familiar. That can definitely happen. And so taking another moment of a deep breath and then noticing, are there more things that you can leave that you don't need? Are there any old backpacks that are weighing down on you? Any old trips that people put on you, guilt trips? Any projections from people you can let go of? Any opinions or things that people have said to you, criticisms, harsh criticisms, anything that's felt hurtful that's been thrown at you energetically? You can let all of that go to your comfort level. Sometimes when I'm getting ready to go in my garden, I will take my clothes off and I will just go in my garden completely naked. That's one of my favorite things to do. But noticing if there's anything else you want to leave behind. Any old skin. Sometimes I unzip old skin and step out of an old identity and let that identity be composted back to the earth. So just feeling if there's anything else that you want to let go. Taking another deep breath. And when you're ready, stepping into your garden. And so starting to allow yourself to receive in fullness whatever it is that you've asked to receive from your garden. Maybe there are things that you brought with you to offer to your garden. Maybe you brought offerings, or maybe there's something that you have with you that you want to leave with your garden. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. You can leave a song for your garden. You can leave a dance. You can leave a poem. You can leave kind words. You can offer gratitude. So just notice what happens when you reciprocate the love and the support, and just notice the sensations that arise. What do you feel when you offer care and love back to your garden? So letting yourself start to come to a close for now with your garden. And something that I teach people, whether it be with my etheric garden or my physical garden or with someone I love or with a sacred site that I'm leaving, instead of leaving with this feeling of sadness and separation, I leave with the energy of see you soon. So feeling into if that feels like an aligned way to close out this session with your garden. Any gratitude or love that you want to express or offer, you're welcome to do so. Because we're preparing now to make our way back. And so finding yourself standing at the threshold of your garden and feeling the energy on the other side, the path in the inner realm that will lead you back to the in-between world, that will lead you back to where your body is resting. So feeling that we will be moving through various frequency ranges, coming back into our body. But for now, standing at this threshold of your garden, feeling the first frequency shift on the other side from leaving the sanctuary of your garden, the sanctity of your garden. And you're going to be stepping through and finding yourself in the inner realms. This communication and connection and collaboration with your garden can happen at any time. You can be at the grocery store and be talking to your garden. You can be having this conversation anytime. You don't have to go, but it is different. It's different it's just the same way when you see your friends versus when you talk to them telepathically, when you go visit them. It's just something about going and visiting. And so as you make your way on the path, just allowing yourself to know that this connection is still present, is still with you. It's always been with you. I just get to be the tour guide that gets to show you around a little bit. I get to be a companion on the path, showing you some of the places that I go, that I love so dearly and deeply. So just letting yourself start to make your way now on the path. Feeling yourself standing in front of the threshold that will then take you into the in-between realms. Feel that you're coming back into physicality, you're coming back into full density, but the intention is not to pick back up any of the baggage, not to pick back up the heaviness, to stay with this level of the healing that your garden offered you, and to weave that back through everything that you're doing. And so feeling the energy of the in-between world on the other side, And when you're ready, stepping through this next portal, feeling that in-betweenness. It's a very distinct feeling. And just noticing what you notice. Feeling the ethereal energy that you just came from, very subtle but profound plane of existence, and feeling yourself coming into the material plane again. And when you're standing at that last threshold, you feel the other side will bring you back into the physicality form, sensing that frequency shift. And then when you're ready, stepping through that last portal and then re-entering your body through your crown, your head, your third eye, down through your throat chakra, down through your high heart chakra, your thymus, down through your heart chakra, down to your belly button, your navel, your solar plexus, your sacral, down through your root, down through your kundalini, all the way down through your legs, down through your ankles, knees and shins, down through your feet, all the way down back into your body. Feeling yourself going deeper into yourself, melting into yourself, feeling yourself present all the way in your left hand, all the way in your right hand, wiggling your toes, staying with your eyes closed just for another moment, because we're also going to call back our energy. So creating a golden sun above the crown of your head, and this golden sun is going to call your energy back. So calling your energy back out of anywhere that it's wandered, calling your energy back out of other people's spaces. Now that you've cleared a lot of energy within your aura, you want to fill those spaces with you, with your own spiritual energy. So we're calling our energy back, calling it back through all space, times, and dimensions. And then when you're ready, downloading this energy into your body, downloading it into your hair, your face, your skin, your shoulders, down your chest, down the back of your spine, down your arms, filling your self in with yourself so that you are full of yourself, centered in yourself. And then go ahead and cut off your current grounding cord. Go ahead and update your relationship with the earth. So asking Mother Earth to send up a brand new grounding cord. And going ahead and checking the outer edges of your aura. Notice if you're still bringing up life force from the earth and down from the heavens. Notice if you have still separation at the edge of your aura. If not, go ahead and recreate those separation roses all around. Taking another deep breath or so. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome back. Welcome back. And welcome back. So taking a moment now to maybe tap yourself on the top of the head. You can eat something, drink something. Start noticing sounds in the room around you, looking around, noticing where you are, orienting yourself in space and time. And then tuning back into the container that you're in, where we are together this evening, exploring healing together, exploring relationship together, exploring how to be deeper in connection. And yes, how was that for you all? Would love to maybe one or two words that you're feeling. You don't have to try to form a whole a whole big share right now. And also would love to hear how you're feeling. I'm feeling pretty happy right now. Feeling pretty happy. Someone said they're feeling light, feeling blessed, blissed. That's a good feeling. playful, enlivened, cozy. Yeah, I love cozy. Happy, wild, as in wildness, trust, grateful, happy. Yeah, nice. So lots of things can happen on journeys, on all kinds of journeys, not just journeys to your garden, but in particular, now that you've met your garden, what I want to say about your garden is that a big part of your garden is just to love up on you and heal you. It's like, to me, it's my happy place. I go to tons of other places in the inner realms. And do all kinds of things. And I always touch base in with my garden, because that's where I like go to restore, and that's where I go to rest and do like deep healing, and all of that. Someone said they're feeling quiet. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, happy sleepy. I'm feeling hungry. So just putting that in the chat as well. I'm feeling a little bit hungry. Um, yeah, tingly alive, grateful, happy, beautiful. So definitely drink a lot of water. In general, right now, the full moon is doing a lot of things. Maybe some of you all have been feeling that. But drinking some water and doing something really sweet for your body. Someone said refreshed, doing something really sweet for your body. So there's a way that when you go into your garden for healings, that you can sort of ask, how how much longer will this healing continue in the background? Because we went there and we had the healing in the foreground, so it's the focal point of what we were doing. All right. So then the healing moves into the background. So it's still happening in the back of our aura. We're still receiving the healing. It's still integrating. And hi, Artemis. And you might also be like anchoring it in a way. So things like being with animal companions, being with friends. I have a full weekend of friends coming over. I have a friend coming over who's visiting in the next hour, my dear friend. So being with people, if that feels right, to kind of get a sense of like, huh, did that practice help me have more capacity to be with people? Or if you're feeling drawn to being time alone, how did the practice infuse into your regular life? Is a good question, is a good next question. How did this work feel in your life? Right? And also, if you're someone that likes to notice a lot of subtle things, you might just notice, okay, that healing is happening in the background. So I'm asking for a sense of, when will this particular healing be complete? And I'm hearing 2 days for me. So for me, there's going to be the next 2 days is going to also be, the healing is going to continue. So I can deepen that. One of the ways that I'm going to deepen that is that I'm going to make some medicine in the garden tomorrow. I'm going to make some essences. I'm going to make shooting star, actually. I did not plan that. That's just the day that I had time to do it. So I'm going to make that essence that I mentioned earlier, the one about feeling like sometimes you feel like you don't belong on earth, right? You're like, I don't really know what's happening here, but it's a lot, right? So that's for that. And then I also am being with loved ones. A friend of mine's moving to Egypt, so she's coming over with her baby. So I'm going to be really immersed in my life, right? So that's a good way to kind of pull this practice through to see, how does this land for me? How does this integrate into my world? Do people notice if I see my friends, do they notice like, wow, you look so happy, or, whatever. Just noticing how it shows up is the homework. If I was giving you homework, just noticing. The more you notice in a lot of ways what's happening, is the more you're giving permission for that to be present and to become more of your life, because you're then saying more of this, right? I'm giving this my time, my attention, my focus. And what that does is that can start to repattern your life in these subtle ways. And you will, if that starts happening, you will see synchronicities, you will see little signs, you will see all kinds of other things that can sort of pop in that are really fun and exciting parts of the magic of this. Also, it's true that when you bring in a lot more of your own energy, other things can come up. So it would be really, completely makes sense to me if there was like crying. And if there's a way that you want to, take a little bit extra time in the bath, in the shower, deepen that, that's one way to do it. Sometimes when you receive a healing, also, there's a way that you might notice something different in your sleep quality. Your appetite might change for a moment. Today I was asked to fast. I didn't have fasting planned, but when I woke up, my body was like, we're fasting today. So actually, part of why I'm hungry is that I haven't eaten, and it's time to break fast now that this is complete. So, ritualize this work in your life in the way that you do. Weave it in. I have a lot of etheric gardening altars, and obviously I work with the plant medicine on an ongoing basis. So see and notice how this wants to work through you. And then also, if you do have a practice of working with your angels, ask your angels what they think. So that can be a really nice other way to kind of land into this work. Yeah, there's so many other sweet things that I could say, but I think I'm going to leave it here. And it's always so sweet to be together in community in this way. And I'm thankful to be able to share this beautiful work with you all. So thank you for coming. And we will share this as a recording. So if you like, you can do the journey again when you're called to it. So enjoy, 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 enjoy. Thank you. Thank you to Callie for the beautiful energy work. Happy full moon, everyone. And I'll see you guys soon. Okay, take care. Bye.